There is something special about small towns in America. Each one has its own character. Some are beautiful, others rich in history, and some are known for their famous residents. But today we're not talking about any of that. Instead, we're diving into the spooky side of small towns, the ones with eerie myth and chilling stories. From strange creatures and mysterious crimes to haunted places, these myths are spread all across the United States. While some are well known, others are only whispered about in local circles. So, if you're easily scared, consider this a warning. From Alabama to Idaho and Rhode Island to Colorado, here are 10 creepy small town legends that might send shivers down your spine. Hi, I'm Alina. Welcome back to my channel. We begin our story in small town of Elmhurst, Illinois. In this town, there's a cemetery with a spooky legend. Inside the cemetery stands a life-sized marble statue of a woman. What makes it even stranger is that she's wearing a wedding dress. Locals talk about this place a lot, and many claim to have experienced strange things there. Some have smelled fresh flowers, while others say they've seen a ghostly figure wandering through the cemetery, and even near the local high school at night. This statue represents a woman named Julia Bucola Petta, who passed away over 100 years ago in 1921 during childbirth. Not only was she a new mother, but she was also a newlywed. Her family decided to bury her in her wedding dress. But here's where the story gets even creepier. After Julia's death, her mother had disturbing nightmares, where Julia appeared to her begging her to reopen the grave. Her mother finally did, and when they dug up the coffin, Julia's body was astonishingly well preserved, as if time had stood still. Shocked by this, her mother collected money to have a statue made in her daughter's honor. Ever since, the legend of Julia Bucola Petta continued to grow. Many people have heard about the witch hunts in New England, but there was also a time when people there were afraid of vampires. One such story is about a young woman named Mercy Brown. She had a tough life. Her sister and her mother both died from tuberculosis. Then, when she was 19, she also got sick with the disease and passed away on January 17, 1892. Because of so many people in her family had died, the townspeople became suspicious. They thought that something supernatural like witchcraft or vampires might be involved. After Mercy was buried, they dug up her body. Some people believed her body looked too well preserved, which made them think something unnatural was going on. Then things got really strange. The vampire-fearing people in Exeter, Rhode Island, removed Mercy Brown's heart and liver and burned them to ashes. As if that wasn't enough, they fed those ashes to her brother, hoping it would cure his sickness. Today, locals in Exeter say that Mercy Brown's ghost still haunts the cemetery where she was buried. In a small Texas town, the story of the Candy Lady still sends shivers down people's spines, both young and old. According to a legend that began in the early 1900s, the Candy Lady would leave sweets on children's windowsills at night to lure them in. She would hide nearby, waiting for the children to reach for the candy, and when they did, she would snatch them. Some kids were said to have disappeared, while others admitted years later that they had taken the candy. There are also stories of a farmer who found rotten teeth scattered around his land, a sheriff's deputy who was found dead with his eyes gouged out and pockets full of candy, and a young boy's body discovered with candy wrappers stuffed in his clothes. With so much time passed, it's hard to know how much of this is true and how much is just a spooky tale. Maybe the legend was made up to keep kids from eating too much candy or trusting strangers. Riverdale Road, a small stretch near Thornton, Colorado, may be short, but it's packed with eerie legends. Locals often talk about seeing the ghost of a runner and mysterious phantom cars. However, the most famous tale is about the gates of hell. This story centers around an old, crumbling mansion where, according to legend, a man tragically set his wife and children on fire. Since then, many have claimed to see ghosts there. Some say they've seen the spirits of slaves who were hanged on the property, the ghost of the man's wife, and even a haunting pack of dogs. These chilling stories have been told since the mid-1800s. Whether you believe them or not, it's probably a good idea to avoid Riverdale Road, especially at night, unless you are a thrill-seeking ghost hunter. The next small town legend we're looking at is a bit more recent than most. In a small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a strange story started in 1966. People claimed to see a flying creature that looked like an insect, but was as big as a man. It had glowing lights and bright red eyes. Because it had large wings and looked like a mix between a human and an insect, the locals called it the Mothman. The Mothman story soon spread beyond the town. In fact, there's even a movie about it called The Mothman Prophecies, made in 2002. People, including paranormal experts, have different ideas about what the Mothman could be. Some think it might be a government experiment, while others believe it could be an alien. Even in 2016, people were still reporting sightings of the creature. Point Pleasant seems to enjoy all the attention from this spooky legend. They've embraced what makes their town special, even if it's a little creepy. Hell's Gate Bridge in Oxford, Alabama comes with some eerie legends, though it's different from the Hell's Gate on Riverdale Road. There are actually two myths tied to this bridge, both dating back to the 1950s. The first story claims that a couple died when their car went off the bridge. If you stop on the bridge today, their ghosts are said to get into your car, leaving behind a mysterious wet spot. The second legend is even more chilling. According to this tale, if you look in your rear view mirror or glance over your shoulder while driving across, you'll catch a glimpse of hell itself. Either way, the bridge is now closed to cars and it's unsafe to walk on. In the small town of Canyon Hill, Idaho, one of the most talked about places is the Canyon Hill Cemetery. Like many spooky small town legends, this cemetery is at the heart of the local myth called the Midnight Jogger. People who believe in the myth say the jogger only shows up at the cemetery and in one specific spot. Some frightened residents claim they've heard knocking on their windows, which they think is from this ghostly figure. It's definitely a unique kind of ghost. But you have to wonder, why are people in a cemetery at night in the first place? Maybe with not much else to do in a small town, this story was created for a bit of fun and excitement. Another gateway to hell? Looks like even the devil needs a way to travel. This one is in the tiny town of Stull, Kansas. The local legend isn't just about hell, it's about Satan himself. According to the story, Satan shows up at Stull twice a year, once during the spring equinox and again on Halloween. People say he visits the town cemetery where nearby the ruins of an old church were once a portal for him to move between hell and earth. There's also a spooky hanging tree in the area, which was used to execute witches. Some think that's why Satan is drawn to this place. Surprisingly, the cemetery is still active, with new graves being dug even today. Our next legend comes from the small town of Quitman, Arkansas, and involves a mysterious creature known as the Arkansas Dog Boy. While the name may sound strange, the story behind it is quite dark. It begins with Gerald Batiste, a troubled child growing up in the 1970s. He was known for being difficult both at home and in school, but what worried people most was how he treated animals, especially dogs. Batiste would cruelly torture them, even doing experiments on helpless animals. As he got older, Batiste became violent towards his parents. According to legend, he not only abused them, but may have even killed them. This is where the tale of the Arkansas Dog Boy starts. Local folklore says the Dog Boy is a terrifying creature, half man and half dog, standing 6 feet tall and weighing over 300 pounds. It's said that he chases their victims, snapping at their heels. Arkansas isn't the only place with a strange creature. Meet the Bunny Man from Clifton, Virginia. The story of the Bunny Man begins with the local asylum. A long time ago, in the early 1900s, a bus carrying patients crashed and one of the patients escaped. He later became known as the Bunny Man. The name comes from a creepy detail. While police were searching for him, they kept finding rabbits that had been skinned and partially eaten. Many of these rabbits were found hanging on a bridge, which is now called Bunnyman Bridge. This legend has stuck around for years, and some people believe there might be a grain of truth to it, making it even spookier. In October 1970, more than 60 years after the crash, several people claimed to see a man wearing a white suit, bunny ears, and holding a hatchet. This image might remind you of the movie Donnie Darko. Nowadays, the town of Clifton fully embraces the Bunny Man legend, especially during Halloween. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!